All right, so looking at finding volume of a three-dimensional figure. So this one is going to be a little bit more easy, or hopefully goes a little bit easier than finding the surface area of the net, is especially with rectangular prisms. We're just going to be multiplying the three dimensions we're given. So length, width, height. Now here it states that volume equals our base times height. The base being just whatever the base figure is. Or with a rectangular prism, volume equals length times width times height. Because your base on this one would equal length times width of 2 times 5. That would be the base of this figure. And then your height would be 6. It gets a little more tricky when we get into triangular prisms or trapezoidal prisms and cylinders, just knowing what exactly the base is. So here we've got our rectangle, so our base equals length times width. In this case, they're using 5 times 6. So yeah, they're just saying this right here is the base, so 5 times 6. So that 6 refers to this length, and the height is 2. Okay, so 5 times 6 is 30. So then the volume is our 30, our base, times our height, which is 2. 30 times 2 gives us 60. Okay, the other way, you could say, well, volume equals length times width times height. So 5 times 6 times 2. And you get the same thing, 60. Okay, so go ahead and see if you can find the volume of these two figures, and then we will go over them. Okay, this first one, so volume equals length times width times height. So I'm just going to plug in my values. I've got, 3 is not my length, but 11, width is 5, height is 3. So 11 times 5 is 55, 55 times 3, that would equal, so volume equals 100 and, 165. This would be centimeters cubed. Okay, next one. So same thing, volume equals length times width times height. My length is 9.5. My width is 2.5. And then my height is 5.5. Okay, when you multiply these all together, volume equals 130. I believe it's 625. Yep, 625. This would be in feet cubed. Okay, so you're just, on a rectangular prism, you're just multiplying the three dimensions. And how to kind of think about this, I'll use yellow here. So you're taking this bottom surface right here, this two-dimensional figure, and you're expanding it upwards. So as you keep going up, you're taking a two-dimensional and moving it in a three-dimensional shape. So, or in a third direction. So this right here, so this base rectangular shape is being extended in a third dimension upwards. And so that's how you get that 3D. So that's the third dimension of the volume. Okay, so the next shape we're going to look at is the volume of a cylinder. So once again, we use volume equals base times height. In this case, the base is our pi times radius squared, because our base is a circle. So we're taking the surface area of a circle and we're moving it up, whatever the height of the cylinder is. Okay, so we're going to use volume equals pi r squared times height to get our volume. So here we use 3.14 for pi. Excuse me. 3 is our radius, and so it's radius squared, pi r squared, then times our height, which is 5. When you multiply those all together, you get 141.3. And this is this says inches cubed. That should be feet. This should be feet cubed. Okay, so go ahead and see if you can get this next cylinder on your own. So pause the video, turn it back on, and see if you got what I got. Okay, so volume equals pi, I'm just going to use 3.14 for pi, times 7 squared, times our height, which is 15. Okay, so 3 times 7 squared, or sorry, 3.14 times 7 squared equals 153.86. Then when we times that by 15, we get our total volume, which is 2,307.9. So once again, you're multiplying to find the surface area of the circle, then you're multiplying that by your height. That'll give you the volume. Okay, this next one, now we have 2 different dimensional figures, but we're going to take the volume of each one and then combine them. So volume here is going to equal our pi, oops, let me just write it out. So it's going to be pi r squared times h. So that's the volume of the cylinder plus our base times width times height of our second dimension. Okay, so we're just going to fill in all these values. So V equals 3.14. So I'm just going to use 3.14 for pi times our radius, which is 2 squared, times the height, which is 7. Okay, then we're going to add to that our base times height, or sorry, base times width. So 4 times 4 times our height, which is 3. Okay, so this is going to give us, so 3.14 times 4 times 7 that's going to give us 87.92 plus the 4 times 3, which that's going to give us 48. So 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 3 equals 48. So now when we add those together, your volume is going to equal 135.92. And there's no units on here, so this, whatever the units would be, it'd just be cubed. So like up here, this should have been centimeters cubed. Okay, so once again, you're taking that base and then you're multiplying it by your height. All right, and then for the last two, since these aren't rectangles or cylinders, when dealing with these ones, we always want to make the base the trapezoid or the triangle. So find the area of the trapezoid or the triangle first, then multiply that by your width. Okay, so this first one, we want to find our surface area. So volume equals, so base times height, which really height here would be width. So really volume equals base times width. So our width is going to be 3. But our base is the area of a trapezoid, which is base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2 times height. The height is 2 in this case. Oops. Here, let me. Okay, so then we're going to multiply that by our width. Okay, so volume equals, so base 1 is 4, base 2 is 8. So our bases are the measurements of our two parallel lines that form the top and bottom of the trapezoid. And then our height in this case is 2. Height always has to be a 90-degree angle to the bases. So note the dotted line that gives us the height is 2. That shows that it's 90 degrees to the bases. So when you do this all together, make sure if you're putting this in a calculator, you put 4 plus 8 in parentheses. Otherwise, the calculator will take 4 plus 8 divided by 2, which is just 4 plus 4, instead of 4 plus 8, which is 12, divided by 2, which is 6. Okay, so this becomes 6 times 2. So 6 times 2 times 3. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 times 3 equals 36. Once again, there's no units here, but if there were, the units would be cubed. All right, and last one. So for our base, we want to use the area of the triangle. So remember, the area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. So we're going to multiply that by our width. Okay, so our base is 4. Our height is 7. So we're going to take that, divide that by 2, and then times that by our width, which is 3. 4 times 7 is 28. 28 divided by 2 gives us 14. So this would be 14 times our width, which is 3. So then volume equals 30 plus 12, which should give us 42. All right, so that is how you find the volume. So make sure whatever your base is, especially on the cylinders, any trapezoidal prisms or triangular prisms, that your base is that trapezoid, the triangle, or the circle. Okay, and then just take that and multiply it by the width or the height in the cylinder's case.